The world is not changing gradually. It is changing suddenly. Old alliances are being tested, trade rules rewritten overnight, and nations that once stood still are now being forced to choose who they are and what they stand for. Canada has made its choice, not to wait for the past to return, not to hope that things go back to the way they were, but to build, boldly, deliberately, for all Canadians, and for generations not yet born. This is that story. For years, Canada shipped its dollars south. Its military alone sent 70 cents of every dollar to American suppliers. That era is over. Canada's new Buy Canadian policy changes the default. When the federal government spends, it will now choose Canadian suppliers first. Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian lumber, built by Canadian workers. 14 nation-building projects have already been announced. Together, they support over 500,000 jobs and unlock more than $100 billion in new investment. 20 new economic and security partnerships on 4 continents in just 12 months. Canada is on track to double its non-U.S. exports over the next decade. That is $300 billion in new orders for Canadian resources, Canadian goods, and Canadian expertise. Canada is not waiting. Canada is building. September 11th, 2001. 38 planes were forced to land in Gander, Newfoundland, a small Canadian town of fewer than 10,000 people. Nearly 7,000 stranded passengers. Americans, mostly. People who had just watched the world change from 30,000 feet in the air. The people of Gander opened their homes. No questions asked. No hosetaschen. They fed strangers, gave up their beds, held hands with people they had never met and would never see again. One of those passengers, a young girl named Ellie, later sent a thank you note. She wrote, "Your kindness motivates me to use my kindness." That is the Canada this speech is about. A country that has always believed unity does not require uniformity. That welcoming the stranger is not weakness. It is the very architecture of who we are. And right now, in a world that is forgetting that lesson, Canada is choosing to remember it. It is a more dangerous world. That is not an opinion. It is the reality Canada's government is acting on. Canada has just implemented the largest pay increase for its armed forces in a generation, because the weight of that responsibility deserves to be matched. Recruitment is already responding. 13% more Canadians have signed up to serve since last June. Canada is part of a coalition defending Ukraine. It is working with Nordic countries and the United Kingdom to protect its Arctic. And a new defense industrial strategy will catalyze $500 billion of investment, creating 125,000 new jobs in aerospace, shipbuilding, and artificial intelligence. This is not the language of a nation that feels threatened. This is the language of a nation that has decided to show up with reliable partners and with real strength. As the new government has put it, Canada is no longer relying just on the strength of its values. It is building the value of its strength. Artificial intelligence is not coming. It is here. And like every transformational technology in history, it will not wait for the slow to catch up. Canada's government has a position on this. Not just a policy, a philosophy. AI for all. AI governed by Canadian values. AI that is accountable to the people it serves. Not AI that concentrates power, but AI that distributes opportunity. In healthcare, shorter wait times, smarter diagnosis, better service. In education, a system that meets every child where they are, instead of expecting every child to be the same. In government itself, systems that actually work for the people paying for them. The question Canada is asking, and the question every government will eventually have to answer, is not whether AI transforms our lives. It will. The only question is whether that transformation will serve everyone or only some. Canada has decided its answer. AI for all. Starting now. Think about what Canadians did this past year before any government told them to. Families swapped Florida vacations for Prince Edward Island. They chose wine from the Okanagan over California. They rediscovered the Cabot Trail, the Columbia Icefield, the Festival International de Jazz de Montreal. Canada's tourism sector had a record-breaking summer. 50,000 more train rides taken, 13% more visits to national parks, 15% more to national museums. Small acts, individual decisions, but repeated millions of times, they sent a message that no government could manufacture. We are the masters of our own destiny. And when tragedy struck, in Tumbler Ridge, where teachers shielded students with their bodies and first responders arrived within 2 minutes, Canadians didn't wait to be told to care. They showed up. They always show up. That is not policy. That is character, and is the foundation on which everything else in this moment is being built. A great country is not made by a single speech. It is not made by a single election. It is made by the daily choices of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Choosing kindness when it would be easier not to. Choosing to build when it would be easier to complain. Choosing to show up again and again because they believe the country they love can be better. Canada's new government has staked its entire agenda on a single conviction, that the greatest country on earth can become even greater still. Not just stronger, good, not just prosperous, fair, not just for some, most of the time, but for all of the time. When we're kind, kindness grows. When we seek unity, unity grows. When we are Canadian, Canada grows. This is not nostalgia. This is not politics as usual. This is a country at a crossroads, choosing its future with open eyes and open hands. Watch what Canada does next, because what happens here will matter far beyond these borders. Canada is all in.